Hello, my name is James D'Angelo, and these are some very, very important ideas in biology. They have a lot to do with mutations, and especially deleterious mutations, and how just simple twists on how deleterious mutations affect all of evolution. But for the most part, this is a problem that is created by deleterious mutations that all species have to solve in some fashion. And here's my favorite image of the event taking place. So Darwin, when he traveled to the Galapagos Islands, didn't get to all the islands. And on the most remote island, there is this bird right here, which is a cormorant. In fact, these are both cormorants. These are cousins. But this is the cormorant that lives on the most remote island of the Galapagos. So I would say the most interesting creature in all of evolution is actually one that Darwin just missed. Okay, so this is a sea cormorant, and it lives on the lava there, and it has no predators, so it does not need to fly. So it's evolved not only to lose much of its wings, but it's also changed in other ways as well, including how it lays eggs and its sense of fear, which is very different on land than even in water. Okay, so again, this is going to be fairly rambling. I'm mostly just putting this video together to publish these ideas in some form so that they can be out there. And hopefully I'll find time to work on more detailed, better thought out videos. And we see the interesting push and pull of the forces of evolution. And we're going to be talking about how brains got bigger, but we're also going to be talking about how brains got a little bit smaller, and indeed recently they've started to grow a little bit again. And a lot of people talk about, how evolution is always this form of progress. Others have talked about de-evolution, and recently there's been this great surge of work by Hawkes and these guys Cochrane and Harpending, which are talking about how man is just blowing up, really evolving faster than any other creature, and their data is really good. But there's also evidence to suggest that the opposite is happening at the same time. So some say human evolution is going backwards, others say it's going forward. Neither is true. So what's really happening is, here's our stretch of DNA, and some genes are being selected for heavily, and so they're evolving in a very progressive manner, and some are not being selected for, and they are de-evolving. And you can indeed have this happen on very micro levels, where one can go down for a few years and rise up, one can go down for a very long time. As we'll see, humans have lost the ability to produce vitamin C. Okay, and they are one of approximately 4 mammals that do not produce vitamin C. One, most famously, is the guinea pig, and that's why it's the guinea pig. We use it in tests because it's much more similar to men, much more similar to humans, but also the large primates, I think just the great apes, also don't produce vitamin C. And this has a lot to do with the fact that they've had such great access to vitamin C. So by being big, strong, and powerful, having brains to find all the fruit and being able to control those resources, they've had a de-evolution of the gene that produces this. And I believe this is just a single point mutation that has removed our ability to produce vitamin C. So if you look at a mouse and you look at a human, the vitamin C gene is very, very similar, except in the mouse it works and in the human it doesn't. And likewise, vitamin C is a very important thing when an animal is under stress. As we know, people take it because they think it helps us with colds and other situations. But if you stab a goat and don't kill it, the next day it will have more vitamin C in its bloodstream. So it overproduces this vitamin with respect to stress. So if you're on a ship and you're concerned about everyone having scurvy, the best thing to do is eat the goat, but eat the goat the day after you stab it, when it will be high in vitamin C. But the key idea here is to realize that human evolution is not going backwards or forwards. It's indeed doing both at the same time, and certain genes are really struggling and other genes are doing quite well. These are just some random ideas, but they're very interesting ideas, and they have a lot to do with rationality, and they really haven't been teased out very well by the biologists. One that's very interesting is female menstruation. Okay, now in nature, you don't see a lot of mammals on their period. This is not because they don't have periods. They do. They menstruate. The issue is most mammals within 1 or 2 cycles will end up pregnant. So the natural state of almost all adult females of mammals is to be pregnant almost every time. And if they aren't pregnant, they're losing out a bit on their fitness. So a female, if she's playing Darwin's game, wants to reproduce as much as possible. So to win in the contest of evolution, she really needs to produce as many babies as possible. So it's very interesting if we think about humans and human females, well, they are spending most of their time not pregnant. This is pretty unnatural, and there are going to be some biological forces that are really going to push these issues around. Biology comes in very quickly, so you pop culture on and you think you can solve things, and as we'll see, culture has a very strong effect on how biology and evolution reacts. Now, one very interesting thing is that one of the ideas that we get in our heads is that a woman on her period or before her period tends to become a little more irate, perhaps even a little more irrational. And don't worry, women, we're going to talk about men in a second, okay? They get irate, irrational, and they become a little more detached and perhaps even more angry with the guy they are with. Now, could this have a biological reason for this? Well, this seems to make a lot of sense. Say this guy is sterile, okay, and she has pair bonded with a sterile guy. Now, again, females in nature, chimpanzees, rams, bulls, etc., don't really understand the idea that sex will give you babies and you'll produce more offspring. She's not really counting in her head. Her body has to count somehow. If this guy that she's pair bonded with is sterile, she needs to get away from them to win in evolution. So what's very interesting is whenever you have your period, well, that means that you have not been fertilized. And so you are with a male that is not doing his job. So it behooves you to act irrationally, it might not be irrational at all, to get away from this guy and move towards a guy in the next few days or weeks so that you can get pregnant and solve this problem of this sterile guy. So this is nature responding to the fact that a woman is not pregnant all the time, because nature really cares about winning most offspring. Same thing kind of happens with men. Men are so obsessed with winning. Well, why does winning matter? Well, here's a ram, and here's a ram, and here's Genghis Khan, who has genes perhaps in almost all of the human population. Winning is everything if you look at genes, because he ended up having many, many more babies than even the second and third guys in his army. And for those who lost, they ended up having no babies. This is a huge drive towards not only being just the leader, but being the winner at everything. Okay, so he was the big winner. He was probably no fun to be around. You probably didn't want to play cards with Genghis Khan. But his genes of rationality, which is win at everything and be an asshole, are the genes that pass on to all of humanity. As opposed to maybe this guy who was like, wow, he's really cool. I really like what he's doing. Someone who understands someone who supports good ideas. This guy does not produce as many babies, and perhaps the peaceful guys they were fighting or whoever somehow lost out are all dead, and their genes aren't passed on to anybody. So this is biology really strongly influencing modern culture and modern ways of viewing things. We are obsessed with sports, and we're obsessed with winners, and we're particularly obsessed with male winners because males can produce lots and lots of offspring. So one winner male can produce thousands and thousands of offspring, whereas a female who wins at competition is likely not to even end up more pregnant at all. Her job is really to try and get involved in a relationship with someone like this, because then those genes that pass on are more likely to win. So she has a very different set of goals. And what's interesting if you look at males and females is that they differ by the genes on the X and Y chromosome. Remember, the male has the Y chromosome. The female doesn't have those genes. That's about 1.2% of all of the genes. So there's a 1.2% genetic difference between males and females. That, strangely, is the same genetic difference between a male human and a male chimpanzee. So a male human and a male chimpanzee are just as related as a female human to a male human. And likewise, a female human and a female chimpanzee are just as related as the female human is to a male. So this is very powerful stuff. Okay, and I'm going to stop here. This is part 1 of this rambling, scrambling Zugzwang video.